tsunami of about 5 feet that damaged homes on Santa Cruz Island. This is IRN USA News. Federal authorities have charged 18 people in what could be the nation's largest credit card fraud ring. U.S. Attorney Paul Fishman says the losses in the case are massive.
The conspirators in this criminal enterprise allegedly obtained more than 25,000 credit cards by fraudulent means, using more than 7,000 false identities. With these credit cards, they have caused losses of at least $200 million.
Prosecutors say the scheme involved improving fake card holders' credit scores and allowing the scammers to borrow more money that they never repaid. A Chinese spying campaign against U.S. journalists uncovered last week may still be going on. Rupert Murdoch says that Chinese hackers continued to attack the Wall Street Journal over the weekend. The New York Times and the Washington Post have also reported that their computer systems were breached in similar incidents. Bloomberg News says it managed to deflect a hacking attempt. For the latest news and analysis, log on to irnusanews.com.
It is the prayer now for residents of Midland City, Alabama, that life will return to normal. Now that authorities have rescued a 5-year-old boy who had been kidnapped off his school bus, then held hostage for nearly a week, people like Pastor Taylor Hodges of the Midland City Baptist Church says the community may have been changed forever after the authorities had to shoot and kill the abductor, identified as Jimmy Lee Dykes.
People were grieving here, and they were grieving, in some ways, the loss of a way of life.
Dykes fatally shot the school bus driver, then held the young boy hostage in a bunker before police stormed the facility to rescue the child. The Reverend Charles Littlefield, who preached at the funeral for the bus driver, said he had mixed emotions at the death of the abductor.
Ethan being freed is an answer to prayer. Mr. Dykes made some choices, and those choices have consequences.
John Clemens, IRN USA Radio News.
Rescue crews used an elevated ladder to reach a bakery truck dangling precariously over the edge of an elevated overpass ramp after a fatal crash. Fort Lauderdale Fire Rescue spokesman Matt Little says one passenger died when the truck crashed early this morning on the ramp leading from a state road to Interstate 95. The truck, bearing a sign for a Miami bakery, came to rest halfway off the ramp with its front end crumpled into a pillar. Rescue crews worked for hours to remove the passenger. A crane later pulled the truck off to the side of the ramp. The driver, whose condition wasn't immediately known, was taken to a hospital. The crash backed up traffic on both routes during the morning rush hour. Unmanned drone aircraft are becoming smaller and cheaper, and some states are worried about who wants to use them and why. More now from correspondent Rita Foley.
Imagine this. Your nosy neighbor buys a sleek, cheap little drone, not too different from the remote-controlled model airplane you remember from your childhood, and flies it over your house to spy on you. One Montana state lawmaker wants to make that illegal. Lawmakers in at least 11 states are looking at plans to restrict the use of drones over their skies. But some of those plans are running headlong into law enforcement, which says drones could be used to follow suspects and for search and rescue operations. I'm Rita Foley.
Monopoly fans have voted to add a cat to the real estate trading game. The cat replaces the iron token. I'm Mark Thomas. This is IRN USA News.
Here's your Truth Radio WTGF 90.5 WeatherBug forecast for the Gulf Coast. For this afternoon, it'll be partly sunny and pleasant with a high of 71. Showers are likely overnight. It'll be cloudy with a low of around 60. We'll have east winds to 15 miles an hour. We'll have showers and thunderstorms Thursday morning. Rain is likely. We could have a thunderstorm in the afternoon. Some of those storms could produce heavy rain. Our high 69 with wind gusts to 25 miles an hour. There's a chance of shower activity Thursday night. It'll be mostly cloudy, a low 58. Friday we'll finish the week with a partly sunny day. Our high near 70. Thanks for listening to Truth Radio WTGF 90.5, your weather source on the Gulf Coast.
You're listening to WTGF 90.5, Milton,
The views
Pensacola.
and beliefs in the following program are not necessarily endorsed as the views or beliefs of WTGF Radio or its affiliated ministries. Welcome to another edition of the Issues of Life show right here on WTGF 90.5. Got Brother Dewey Mars. The other star decided to show up like a minute till. Paul Johnson.
It was not a minute till.
Now, what would we do if we didn't have Paul to pick on? I'll tell you what.
No, I don't know.
It'd be a dull show. I'd be a dull show.
Probably cry.
Keep thy heart with all diligence. These fellows need to take a note out of that verse today. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life.
We're sure glad to be coming before you today. We got a lot of good things to discuss. Hope you'll call in. Numbers to call, 994-3747. Or get online and go to truthradio.org, truthradiofm.org, and send us a note. You could contact us one way or another and get involved in the discussion today. Always helps to make for a lively program. We're sure glad you're tuned in and trust that the program be a blessing to you today. A lot of stuff going on in our country. We were discussing beforehand the matter of the drones. That's been in the news the last couple of days, pretty heavy, from all sides. I'm hearing all kinds of things regarding.
Yeah,
this,
it's in the mainstream. I found an article on NBC. Of course, we just heard something about it here on our station when they were playing the news a couple minutes ago. But I read an article about it on NBC, on NBC.com rather, and it's kind of spooky.
Yeah, it is. They're targeting Americans overseas that are related to that. Right now, it's and I think they've already used a drone to kill an American.
2 American citizens. I forget what their names are. I'm going to bring it in next month. My internet's down this morning, but they used drones to kill 2 American citizens. Now they're both of Middle Eastern descent, and but they were connected.
Both related to Al Qaeda, right?
Yes,
they were connected to
well,
Al Qaeda, and that's the excuse they're using.
But the thing about it is, though, that they had no concrete evidence that they were connected to Al Qaeda.
Really?
They were suspicioned by unnamed governing bodies to be connected, but they see now they can. It's on the books now where they can do this, whether they have concrete evidence or not.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, just as long as a Justice Department individual, somebody in the Justice Department verifies it or whatever, they can give the go-ahead.
And, we were talking about right before we went on the air about I tested a quadcopter. And what it did, you can control it from your iPhone or iPad. It's got a little camera on the front of it.
And you said you tested this, or you have this? This is
I tested it.
Okay. I thought you said you
something
had
I had.
I was going to make sure you didn't send it over my house.
No, but the cool thing is, I could sit in my living room and go into each of the boys' room with the camera, and then even I took it outside and went down the street. I mean, it has an awesome range via Bluetooth, and I just was like, wow.
Now, you're controlling this thing from your phone, or it has separate controls? You're controlling it from
your phone or your iPad. And also, you have 2 buttons on the left and right, but then right in the middle is the camera where you can see in live real time what's happening.
Going on. Wow.
Just like the drones that they use now. So,
now, how much will something like this cost?
I think that one was $150.
Yeah, they're getting down.
They're getting cheaper and cheaper. I mean, I saw one at Walmart for $19.99 the other day.
Yeah.
And
my goodness.
Just a little basic one. I mean, it used to be where you had to actually go to a hobby store and, get one. Now you can get one anywhere.
Yeah, and I think as part of the concern, I think in Virginia they were filing a suit to try to prevent this from happening. And part of the concern is neighbors spying on neighbors. And of course, the police force, they want access to this type of thing. You can always find some good benefit to these any type of technology has its benefits, has its good side. To just like even we were talking last week about the chips. They've been using those in animals for some time now, and now they're starting to put them in human beings and things like that. And so you see the good side of these things, the benefit of them to keep like kidnappers from taking your children, things of that nature. But the downside far outweighs the benefits, I believe, from my opinion.
Because technology, and people fuss about Facebook and fuss about this, but technology, whatever it is just an inanimate object. And so, but it can be used by individuals with ulterior motives any way they want to use it.
Yeah, and I think
but it's just an inanimate object.
Well, all this stuff started back, even 9/11 is what really opened the doors for these things. President Bush was. I think he made the statement that how much of our liberties are we willing to give up for security? Well, my answer to that is none.
Exactly.
I'm not willing to give up any liberties for security. I mean, I I take care of my own security, personal security, and our government is supposed to take every reasonable step to take care of the country's security. But that doesn't mean violating citizens' rights. And of course, our rights are being trampled on, and that's what we've been talking about these last few weeks. Our rights are being trampled on every single day. The new things are coming out. You know, I mean, the thing that brought this whole drone business to light was a memo that was discovered by NBC. I believe this was the case. It was an intergovernmental memo, and I think it was a secret memo, if I understand correctly.
It was an in-house memo, and they actually have a link that you can click on to read what they call the white pages, and to read not only about drones, but about everything that they can now do to American citizens. Every right that they can infringe upon, if they even suspect that you're motivated by any kind of theological, because that's what terrorism is now. If you commit an act of violence or even aggression based on your fundamental or theological beliefs, then you're a terrorist.
Well, think about this. Back when David Koresh was doing his thing, all the problems over that whole issue, and there's still a lot of question marks regarding that particular issue with David Koresh. And but if you remember, Janet Reno began talking about identifying, using the term fundamentalist. He was a fundamentalist Christian, a fundamentalist Christian, a fundamentalist Christian. And you get over on the Muslim side, and they talk about the radical fundamentalism, radical fundamentalist Muslims, and they keep tossing this term fundamentalist around, and with an identification now between radical Islamic fundamentalists who espouse violence and a fringe radical fundamentalist who espouses violence on the Christian side. So at some point, if this kind of thing keeps going on, at some point I predict that they will just simply drop the Christian or Muslim, and it'll be fundamentalist. It will be the bad term, and that will be the ones that are a threat to American citizens. And so then they'll begin to target those people.
And at some point, anyone who espouses to biblical or any type of religious belief, any type of theological belief that does not line up with the government philosophy, you'll be considered a threat. Yeah. Now I don't know when that'll happen, but it's going to happen at some point.
Well, see, I boldly use the term fundamentalist in reference to myself.
Sure.
But what I mean by fundamentalist, to me, a fundamental Christian is one who believes the fundamentals of the faith, such as the deity of Jesus Christ, that the Bible is the final authority concerning all matters of faith and practice.
And
let's
define.
See, they're
fundamental
the
means
the term, not us.
The ground level.
Yeah, it means the bottom, the basic, the basic
exactly.
beliefs.
You get the basics down, like fundamentals of accounting or fundamentals of math.
Exactly. Yes.
But they're trying to use that label in a
negative light, and they're the ones that are misusing the term. It is biblical to be a fundamentalist.
Absolutely.
Yes. It is. As a matter of fact, it's necessary to be saved.
Exactly.
To be saved is to rest in the fundamentals of the faith, the fundamentals of the gospel, the fundamentals of Scripture.
Anybody who is saved would have to be declared a fundamentalist.
Because that's
so
the bottom level.
If you expand out that what's going on with the use of the term, then they're coming against all Christians one day. And those, when I say Christians, all of those, because the term Christians is used very broad today. They're coming against everyone who truly is born again at some point in time. Yeah. By the way, that's biblical, and we don't know when that's going to take place, as Paul said. But I want to read you a few verses out of Revelation chapter 6 before we go to break, and then we'll come back and discuss some of these things. Revelation chapter 6 deals with the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And, you hear the newscasters will refer to these four horsemen at different points in time. But I want to give a little bit of explanation to these four horsemen and just to look at some things regarding them. In Revelation chapter 6 it says, "And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, Come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard a second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. and there was given unto him a great sword. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he had that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice the midst of the fourth beast say, A measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see that thou hurt not the oil and the wine. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto him, to them, over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with the sword, and with hunger, with death, and with the beasts of the earth. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God, and for the testimony which they held. And so you have these four beasts that come on the scene, these 4 individuals riding these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And we need to discuss this a little bit. I think after well, it's not quite time for a break. I want to bring a point about the first horse, the white. It was white, and he came, the rider had a bow, but it doesn't say anything about arrows. And he came forth conquering and to conquer. Now, I've heard others say, and I believe, that this means he's conquering by peaceful means. The white horse means it's usually used in semblance of peaceful means, or peace, making peace. Not that this individual's making peace, because he's conquering. But he's conquering. The only way to conquer is not by brute force. Sometimes you can conquer by subtlety, by trick, by hook and crook, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what's going on here. This individual comes on a white horse with a bow, no arrows mentioned, and he conquers. Well, and the thing that leads me to believe that he's conquering in peace is that the second beast, the red horse, he comes and he takes peace from the earth. His responsibility is to take peace from the earth, and that's what will take place. Now, as we mentioned last week, we're talking about this these chips that they put in people. What's the initials there?
RFID.
RFID. Radio frequency, or radio
identification, something. But it's radio frequency identification.
Identification. All right. And you know, this week we're talking about drones and other things that are going on in the country right now. The very fact that we're losing our liberties. Now, am I saying that that this individual is our President Obama? I don't think so. But I do believe this. I believe there's a lot of things that are going on in our country right now that are setting the stage for this to take place. I think that we're losing our freedoms without a shot being fired. You know, we're becoming captives. We're becoming we're becoming enslaved. We're not enslaved yet, but we're as I mentioned before in a previous program, it's kind of like boiling a frog. You know, you don't just throw a frog in a boiling water. Who wants to boil a frog anyway? But if you want to boil a frog, you turn the heat up slowly, and after a while he's cooked and didn't even know it. That's what's happening in the United States of America.
My
We're
mother
being cooked
used
and
that.
Not even knowing it.
My mother used that same example. I bet you thought I was going to say my mother boiled a frog, didn't you? But no, my mother used that same example in reference to this, in reference to these topics, but it's just, I mean, it's happened so gradually because it started happening even way back with the Patriot Act.
Yes.
You know, everybody was so big on the Patriot Act, big on the Patriot Act.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what really opened the door
Absolutely.
for some of these things to transpire. And it's taken years and years for it to all kind of come out of the fog and we can kind of see where it's going. But it happened way back then.
Yeah, I believe it even started before then. I think it started in Reagan's day.
Really?
Yes, sir, I do. And I've said this numerous times, but Reagan was the first president in the history of the country to send an ambassador to the Vatican.
Yeah, that still surprises me.
He's the one that did it. He started all of that. We never recognized the Vatican before as a state. You know, and it's not that we're against the Vatican, but we never recognized it as it, because the Vatican claims to have power over the kings of the earth. And
I'm against the Vatican,
that was the
for the
main
record.
thing.
Yeah, and he
Personally,
was also,
I'm against the Vatican, for the record.
Didn't he have an astrologer too, or something that would read his palms or something?
Yeah.
It's the Issues of Life radio show right here on WTGF 90.5. Brought to you by Milton Dodge, Highway 90 in Milton. You go to miltondodge.com for more information on that. Join in on our conversation
994-3747 or go to truthradiofm.org. Chiropractic care, the natural answer for many people's back, neck pain, and spinal-related injuries. Dr. William Buck Waters has been providing quality chiropractic care to Northwest Florida residents for over 30 years. Dr. Waters is currently accepting new patients in his Pensacola office, which is conveniently located at 1602 North 9th Avenue. For experience you can trust and care you can count on, his office phone number is 435-7777. That's 435-7777.
Culpeper Insurance Agency is a proud sponsor of WTGF Truth Radio 90.5. They are located at 6630 Caroline Street in Milton, and their phone number is 623-3601. Supplying peace of mind for your home, auto, recreational vehicles, and commercial insurance, along with life and health insurance. They are there for your needs. Help Culpeper Insurance support your Christian radio station. Thank them for making WTGF 90.5 possible in your community.
The Little Red Barn, which is located at 4474 Woodbine Road in Pace, is a proud sponsor of the music and programming of WTGF 90.5. Come and enjoy fresh homemade desserts, cakes, and a ton of other desserts in their bakery. They also have soups, salads, and sandwiches featuring premium boar's head meats and cheeses. And while you're there, make sure you look at all the gifts and neat stuff that's inside the Little Red Barn. Their phone number is 995-4332. That's the Little Red Barn at 4474 Woodbine Road in Pace. Serving Saturday breakfast 8 a.m. till 10:30 a.m. Also lunch delivery every Monday through Friday 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. at the Little Red Barn. Welcome back to the Issues of Life radio show right here on WTGF 90.5. Thanks for tuning in today. Join in on our conversation, 994-3747. Or you can log on to truthradiofm.org. Get more information
We're just talking about a hodgepodge of things today. We're talking about the loss of freedoms has been our topic for the last couple of weeks, and we're continuing along those lines. We believe it's very important that we, as citizens of the United States, more than that though, as Christians, as Bible-believing people, it's our responsibility to take a stand. To take a stand. And we were talking about the use of the term fundamentalist that started back in the days with Janet Reno and David Koresh and that situation, and the identification of the she began first. I think it started some before then, but she really began to popularize the use of the negative use of fundamentalism, or a fundamentalist, and making the identification with the Islamic fundamentalist and Christian fundamentalist, and of course making the tie between David Koresh and the Islamic fundamentalists in the area of violence. And we all would be considered fundamentalists here. And anybody who believes the Bible, anybody that's born again, anybody that knows Christ, is a fundamentalist. And but that doesn't mean we're going to go out and commit acts of violence.
Sure.
That doesn't mean we're going to go out and try to harm people,
Well, I worry about Paul sometimes.
Well, yeah, Paul, we got to watch out for him.
But even back when Constantine, Constantine supposedly had that great vision.
Yep.
And he forced everybody to take on the Judeo-Christian faith and slaughtered people if they didn't do it.
Exactly.
I mean, nobody's condoning that type of behavior. Christ didn't condone that type of behavior.
Right.
I mean, so to try to make that comparison that we would do that if we were had more control and more power of the media and things, to me is pretty absurd.
Well, and the whole thing about gun control. I watched the thing. And again, Paul, if you'd watch Fox News every now and then, it'd help you with some of your liberal views.
Yeah, no thanks.
But they had a woman on there that was before Congress, and she was, I forget her name, but Hannity had her on last night and was discussing with her. She really did a good job before Congress in presenting a woman's position in regards to having a firearm for protection and having an assault rifle. an AR-15 for protection because it's lightweight, it's accurate, it doesn't have a large recoil. That's one of the reasons that the AR-15 is so popular. It's an extremely good gun for protection. And one of the congressmen asked her, well, why would you need so many bullets? Why would you need more than 7 bullets? Well, what if you got more than one person coming in your home, which has happened on more than one occasion?
Yeah.
What about and they used the illustration about the lady that was she had these men came into her home and she got into the crawl space of her attic with her children, and she had a pistol and she emptied the gun, hit the guy 5 times, and he still went outside, got outside, and ran off. See. Now so that's the kind of defense they want you to have. Either something like that, or a butcher knife, or a butter knife. They'd probably rather have a butter knife.
Yes, yeah.
You know,
I text you the quote from Eastwood that I found online.
Yeah.
He said I have a very strict gun control policy. If there's a gun around, I want to be the one in control of it.
Well, you know, the point though, I mean, and here you put yourself in and say, well, yourself. Here you are. You're in a wheelchair.
Yes, sir.
So those of you who can't see, Paul's in a wheelchair. Been there since he was how old?
Born, really.
Well, you're born that way. He was born there. Been there all of his life. You're 40 years old. Been there all of his life. Now, if perpetrators were to come in his home to harm his wife and children, what's he going to do? He can't get out of that wheelchair. His legs don't work. He can't get out of that wheelchair. He can't defend his family against them without a weapon. You know. So what do they want? I guess the answer is for him. Well, goodbye. You know, adios.
Much. I mean, you know, because and if you talk to the hardline Democrats, they will tell you they want to take every gun out of every home. Period.
Yeah, the hardliners. I mean, I've heard them make awful statements. I'm talking about they feel like if you believe the way we believe, they think you ought to be shot yourself. I mean, real kind people.
See, that's the thing. They don't like the idea of they don't just dislike the idea of people owning guns. They dislike the people.
Yeah, absolutely.
They dislike the individuals.
Exactly.
Who hold to the right to own a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. They dislike the people.
Well, here's the thing. You know, the bottom line is we have a right to defend ourselves, and we've said this numerous times, and I have to keep repeating it. The average response time for a policeman to get to a crime of that nature is 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. In 20 minutes, you're going to be dead. The perpetrator's going to be in another country, you know, at least another county. And so, you know, that it is our right. It is that's where our freedoms are based, and it's not strictly for guns. The right to own guns, the right to possess guns, is not strictly for hunting, nor is it strictly for home protection or personal protection when you're not in the home. It's for and it's not just for protection from criminals. It's protection from an oppressive government. And as I've stated on here numerous times, Switzerland, every household in Switzerland has an assault rifle, and they're required to use it. Even they have gun meets. They don't play golf in Switzerland. They go practice shooting, and they have zero crime. Why? It's crazy. It's ludicrous that we don't. The liberals are so covering up the facts in this area, and it has to be because of a desired plan to take over.
Well, see, that's the thing. See, I believe what they want to force people to do is they want to force you to. They want to get this country to a place where if you want to own a gun, you have to own a gun you have to buy a gun on the black market. And once you buy a gun on the black market, they can immediately identify you as a criminal, and that's it.
Exactly.
That's what I believe that I believe that's their ultimate goal. Is we can just lump them all in one big pot as criminals, and then once we can put that tag on them, we can do with them as we please.
Yeah. Well, as many of our listeners know, I just was in Belize a couple of times in the latter part of last year, and in Belize their laws are that you can own a gun in Belize, but the gun permit's about $300 a year. Your average person in Belize can't afford to own a gun. They can't even afford the crazy permit. And then you can only own a gun of, I think, a 9mm is the most powerful gun you can own. And you certainly can't own an assault rifle. You have to have a permit for every gun you own, not a general permit. It's just for every gun has to be registered. And that's why they're putting so much fuss over this what do they call it, a national registry.
Mm-hmm.
They basically want to know where every gun is, so that when it comes time they can go collect them. And that really is the bottom line. They want to know who's got them so they can come get them. You know.
So you don't even believe in gun registration then?
We have gun registration now. We already have gun registration.
Now what are they?
They're talking about a universal registration. We already have universal registration.
Okay.
If you go and buy a gun from a dealer at a gun show, or if you go down here to a shop and buy a gun, you get that gun's registered. When you buy that gun, you have to fill out the information, and that is registering. Now, if I were to sell you my gun or whatever, I don't necessarily have to register that. But you know, the people that don't register is people who give their guns to, like, their children or whatever. They have it in an inheritance of that type of thing.
But now if you sell me one of your guns and I go rob a bank with it, then they're going to come get you.
Maybe they would come find out what happened to the gun, you know,
Yeah,
and it is registered so they could do that.
Yeah, under your name, so they would.
Yeah.
They would start by knocking on your door,
Exactly,
and then you would tell them that, I sold it. And,
yeah, Paul's got to go get him.
Yeah. You know, my grandfather, of course, he's in a nursing home now, but he's 86 years old, and you know, he's a Texan. He's a lifelong, and he's your typical Texan. You know,
yeah, it's a sin not to have a gun in Texas.
But I asked him because he at the time that I was a kid, he owned about, I guess he owned between 40 and 50 guns.
Yeah.
And you know, he had them all locked up in a room, and of course he hunted and all that stuff. And I asked him, I said, because he had pistols and all these sort of guns, and I asked him, I said, Pop, I said, are all these guns loaded? And he was in his office chair, you know, he leaned over and looked at me. He said, well, if I'm not going to load my guns, why wouldn't I just take all the food out of the fridge and let it just sit there for no reason?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Oh, mercy. Well, irregardless as to how one handles their own guns, that type of thing, you know, it's a serious. What we're talking about here is freedom, and we're talking about I believe the obligation, responsibility of freedom-loving people to maintain that freedom. And in part, what we're doing in this radio program, or have been for the last few weeks, is our part, I believe, in publicizing, making it known that it's our responsibility to maintain that freedom, to hold our politicians accountable. I think that if any of our local politicians, any of the representatives that we have from this area that go to Washington, that vote for these bogus regulations that the Obama administration is trying to impose upon the United States, I believe we ought to replace them. I believe I think some are coming up for election pretty soon, right? Next year. Well, I think that we ought to monitor who's voting for what, but you know, and as I speak this, I'm reluctant because it's probably not going to happen.
No.
We've become so complacent.
Pattern, right.
Yeah, we've become so complacent, and we become as long as people leave us alone, basically, they let us do our thing, and we don't care.
And see, that's part of the problem.
That is the major part of the problem.
Because you don't hold them accountable, so
Listen,
they do what they want.
At this point, if Obama, President Obama, I should say, if President Obama would find a way to lower gas prices $1.50, he could pretty much do what he wanted. Most people would be okay with him doing whatever he wanted to do. They just want more money in their pocket, more gas in their tank, more food in the fridge.
You have a good point there, but it seems to me he's doing whatever he wants to do now without lowering the gasoline.
Yeah, but I mean, it's gotta, you know, it's gotta. I was thinking about this, you know, the timeline in relation to prophecy. It's got to get rough at some point for him because there's not going to be a lot of tranquility in the world when whoever the Antichrist does come on the scene, he's going to have to appease all this stuff.
Well, look at what I was reading in Revelation 6.
Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back right here on the Issues of Life radio show on WTGF 90.5. chiropractic care, the natural answer for many people's back, neck pain, and spinal-related injuries. Dr. William Buck Waters has been providing quality chiropractic care to Northwest Florida residents for over 30 years. Dr. Waters is currently accepting new patients in his Pensacola office, which is conveniently located at 1602 North 9th Avenue. For experience you can trust and care you can count on, his office phone number is 435-7777. That's 435-7777.
Culpeper Insurance Agency is a proud sponsor of WTGF Truth Radio 90.5. They are located at 6630 Caroline Street in Milton, and their phone number is 623-3601. Supplying a peace of mind for your home, auto, recreational vehicles, and commercial insurance, along with life and health insurance. They are there for your needs. Help Culpeper Insurance support your Christian radio station. Thank them for making WTGF 90.5 possible in your community.
The Little Red Barn, which is located at 4474 Woodbine Road in Pace, is a proud sponsor of the music and programming of WTGF 90.5. Come and enjoy fresh homemade desserts, cakes, and a ton of other desserts in their bakery. They also have soups, salads, and sandwiches featuring premium boar's head meats and cheeses. And while you're there, make sure you look at all the gifts and neat stuff that's inside the Little Red Barn. Their phone number is 995-4332. That's the Little Red Barn at 4474 Woodbine Road in Pace. Serving Saturday breakfast 8 a.m. till 10:30 a.m. Also lunch delivery every Monday through Friday 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. at the Little Red Barn. Welcome back to the Issues of Life radio show right here on WTGF 90.5. Before we went to break, we were talking Revelation 6. I had to stop you real quick.
Yeah,
but
we were talking about Revelation. I was about
before
to get into
you
Revelation 6 right before I was rudely interrupted by
well,
it.
we were going to have a revival, and I didn't want it to, be interrupted. I wanted the revival to just keep on.
He acts like he's the producer of the show or something.
I'm telling you, he does.
Well, we have the star now,
Yeah,
so
we
I
got
mean
the star, the producer, and I guess I'm not sure what my position is anymore.
The double star.
Yeah, I'm the star, yeah.
All right, we were talking about the four horsemen of the apocalypse, the white horse. And the reason I bring this up is what Paul was saying regarding how the Antichrist comes to power, but he comes to power by peaceful means. And I think it's so important that we understand that. He's got a bow. In other words, he's got a weapon, but all he has to do is really just have the weapon. He's not really using the weapon from what I see here. Now, somebody else may have a better insight than I have on this, but that's what I see. I see he's got a bow, and because it doesn't mention arrows, all he does is come on the scene with a white horse, and white is a symbol of peace. He comes on the scene with the white horse, and he's got the bow, and he conquers. He comes conquering and to conquer. His whole purpose is to conquer. Do you know they say you can catch more flies with honey than vinegar and that type of thing? Well, that's pretty much the principle involved here. But he's setting the stage for the next horseman to come on the scene with taking peace from the earth, because that will transpire. Dictators are not satisfied with just getting to power. They not only want to get power, they want to control and maintain the power. Every dictator has all, even in Venezuela here recently, Chavez, and I think he's pretty much out of the picture now, or at least on his way out. But he was still, before going out, he was still trying to get another term. Well, I think we're going to see the same thing taking place here. I think that our President Obama is already there. From what I've read, there's already some things underfoot, some movement going on to try to do away with the two-term limit. And somebody said, I believe it was, I forget who it was that I heard say this, but that we're in a better position now. He's in a better position now for that to take place. All other presidents have tried it as well, but he is in a better position to make it happen than anybody previous. And so it is very, very likely that before he goes out of this second term, that they'll do away with term limits and he'll have another term.
Or either whoever succeeds him will just be one of his.
Yeah, well, and no doubt that's going to take place pretty much anyway.
Now, let me ask you something which you may or may not know the answer to. Now, President Roosevelt, now, because he was president for like 12 years or something. Now, did they make the law of term limits after him?
I think that was the case. Yes,
yeah,
that's right.
See, I've always thought that, but somebody told me that that he was allowed to stay in because we were in the middle of a war. But I'd always
I think
thought
the term limits were brought about after. Isn't that right, John? I think that's right.
Yeah, I believe Truman brought them.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because Roosevelt was he was a beloved president. He, for the most part, he was.
And it was starting to turn into a king.
Yeah.
You know, just like England.
Yeah. Well, see, they offered Washington the president for life, and he said no. He said you don't need that. You need
because of the king. You know, we don't want a king.
Right, exactly. And that was so. That was those kind of things were dealt with early on in our country.
And see, and obviously those fellows were paranoid about an oppressive government. I mean,
exactly.
they designed everything they did to fend off an oppressive government.
And to some degree, two-term limits make for an ineffective. You know, they make some things ineffective. They more things could get done. You know, that type of thing. But again, that you come to the same problem that you faced when Bush instituted the Patriot Act. You know, how much of your freedoms, your liberty, are you willing to give up for security? Well, how much effectiveness are you willing to give up to maintain that liberty? See?
Yeah, exactly. Because the negative aspect the negative aspect of no term limits is greater than the positive aspect. You know, I mean, if you had if you had a guy come in who knew that he could stay as long as he wanted, the potentiality for negative things happening is far greater than the positive things.
And power almost inevitably goes to an individual's head.
And you know, back in the day, when Washington, and then as it went on, they had a gentleman's agreement. That's basically, from what I understand, Washington said to these people, "We're going to have a gentleman's agreement saying you will only serve 2 terms."
Yeah.
And that lasted until the time, you know, in Roosevelt's time. So they finally had to put it in writing.
Yeah.
Because you would start having a king if there wasn't a constitutional amendment saying it.
And now we're in an environment in the world where leaders want to be kings. You know, to where we've got people who don't have the same love for freedom and liberty that our forefathers had, that Washington and some of those.
And they don't want to remain accountable either.
Exactly.
And if you listen to some of the Obama, I mean, I've heard them say it on news shows and whatnot. If you listen to some of the Obama supporters, they are even saying now, you know, because the president is kept in check by checks and balances and laws and things, and they're saying now, look, the people have spoken. They want him in here. Let's just let him do what he wants. You know. I mean, and that's never been said that I know of about another president, because the people always speak.
Right.
Whoever gets in, supposedly, whoever gets in was because the people spoke. But after his second term, the people like Al Sharpton and other people are saying, well, look, the people have spoken. He got in here by a great margin. Let's just let him run it like he wants to run it. We want his ideas and his agenda.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you know, you can even boil that down to a local level. I mean, no term limits in a couple of these counties. You know, we had a guy over in Escambia County. I think he was the clerk of courts for like 50-something years.
Yeah.
And as he was going out, this is all public record. You know, he was giving people raises and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so even term limits on our local level will keep the leaders from being a dictator and, you know, putting the jobs in place. You know, we're so intertwined now that we all have to be accountable to somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, even when you're a Christian, you want to be accountable to someone else, making sure that you're still learning and growing, and, you know, they hold you accountable.
I believe that's a biblical principle. That our forefathers well understood, and they instituted it. And it's been maintained over these number of years, and now though it's we don't, people don't want to be accountable even you know, even accountable to deadlines. You know, our president, this sequester thing, you know, and he keeps pushing it off and pushing it off and pushing it off. Well, why isn't our representative government holding him accountable?
Right.
Come up with a budget.
And why aren't we holding our representatives accountable?
Why aren't we holding our representatives?
Say, get it done. We have to balance our checkbooks.
Exactly.
I mean, I'd be in the red, but, you know, you go to jail for stuff like that.
Well, see, I can remember in the early 90s when they had the first big check bouncing scandal in Congress.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and of course my dad was just livid. I mean, because I mean, you know, if you overdraw the bank, you have to pay fees and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and if you write enough bad checks, you go to jail.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
You know, so you know, that's kind of my first experience with the kind of double standard thing that goes on. You know, in Washington, it's just, and it's certainly, but see, now we're to the point now where this is really the first administration I've seen where if you say anything against the president, like now, did y'all read about this principal that I'm gonna have to use a term, but he referred to the first lady as fat butt. That's what he referred, and he got suspended for that.
Yeah.
Now that was the idiotic thing for him to say.
Yeah.
But you know, how much did they rip on Bush? Nobody ever got suspended for ripping
exactly,
on.
Exactly right.
I mean, he got a 10-day suspension because he used that term in reference to the first lady, which he should not have done, and I don't condone it. And he said some things about how he feels about sodomites.
Yeah.
And he got a 10-day suspension without pay.
Now, did he do this in school?
He did
in
it
front of a faculty, or
he did it in school, and one of the students had a device, and they were recording him.
Gotcha.
And he got a 10-day suspension, and in order to come back, he's got to meet with a counselor twice a month to come back. You know, that's well, I mean, I just don't know. I mean, was that to go to speak out against this president? You're in danger of things that have never really happened before. We're supposed to be able to speak out against presidents.
But see, the inventions of the phone recording. I mean, I could sit here and record, nobody would ever know. Screen's dark.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's more of an accountability issue. Having cameras, you know, where you work or something like that, they're not trying to spy on you. They just want to make sure you're not taking a smoke break every 5 seconds.
Well,
you know, you can see both.
You can see the rationale behind some of those things, but on the other hand, those are the kind of things that are going to ultimately, those are going to be the mechanisms used to ultimately take away our freedoms.
But my point is, who cares that he said it?
But he said it,
you know. Yeah, I think I'd have to
in
have
an
a
official
little bit
capacity.
Of a difference there because he's in an official capacity. What were the age group of the children he was teaching, or was it children or college? Or?
I would assume. I mean, they had.
If it was on a college campus,
children.
that's one thing.
Right.
Because if it's in a grade school setting, I might have a little problem with that myself. You know, of somebody speaking disrespectfully about somebody in a public office, anybody in a public office. You know, because you're teaching the kids disrespect.
Right.
So, but now, I don't know. I mean, as far as, I agree with your statement that, you know, that you can't say anything negative about this president and not get some kind of repercussions. So, I think that,
I mean,
as Hannity refers to him on a regular basis, the anointed one, you know, he's treated as the anointed one.
I need some Royal music.
Yeah.
Well, when Bill O'Reilly interviewed him, and you know how I feel about Bill O'Reilly, he's right a lot of times. I agree with him philosophically. I just don't like the way he says what he says. It reminds me too much of some people I grew up with. But whenever he a couple of Super Bowls ago, I think it was not this past one, but the last one, he interviewed the president before the Super Bowl, and it got huge ratings. You know, Bill O'Reilly is going to interview Barack Obama. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be an event. I mean, I even watched it, and I can't stand Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah.
You know, but he supposedly they counted how many times he interrupted Barack Obama. He supposedly in a 20-minute interview, he interrupted Barack Obama 26 times.
Yeah.
Well, everybody knows he's rude and crude and a big blowhard. Everybody knows that. You know, but I mean, they actually had a commentary that counted how many times he interrupted Barack Obama.
Yeah.
That's absurd to me.
Yeah. And they didn't do that for anybody else. I mean, you know, he gets special privileges for sure, more so than any other president.
It's the Issues of Life radio show right here on WTGF. Join in conversation. We want to know what you have to say. 994-3747, or just go to our website at truthradiofm.org. chiropractic care, the natural answer for many people's back, neck pain, and spinal-related injuries. Dr. William Buck Waters has been providing quality chiropractic care to Northwest Florida residents for over 30 years. Dr. Waters is currently accepting new patients in his Pensacola office, which is conveniently located at 1602 North 9th Avenue. For experience you can trust and care you can count on, his office phone number is 435-7777. That's 435-7777.
Culpeper Insurance Agency is a proud sponsor of WTGF Truth Radio 90.5. They are located at 6630 Caroline Street in Milton, and their phone number is 623-3601. Supplying peace of mind for your home, auto, recreational vehicles, and commercial insurance, along with life and health insurance. They are there for your needs. Help Culpeper Insurance support your Christian radio station. Thank them for making WTGF 90.5 possible in your community.
The Little Red Barn, which is located at 4474 Woodbine Road in Pace, is a proud sponsor of the music and programming of WTGF 90.5. Come and enjoy fresh homemade desserts, cakes, and a ton of other desserts in their bakery. They also have soups, salads, and sandwiches featuring premium boar's head meats and cheeses. And while you're there, make sure you look at all the gifts and neat stuff that's inside the Little Red Barn. Their phone number is 995-4332. That's the Little Red Barn at 4474 Woodbine Road in Pace. Serving Saturday breakfast 8 a.m. till 10:30 a.m. Also lunch delivery every Monday through Friday 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. at the Little Red Barn. Welcome back to the Issues of Life radio show right here on WTGF 90.5. Man, great topics. I mean, we even keep going off the air. It's funny.
Just the residual. Well, we sure would like you folks to call in and join in the discussion with us. We're talking here today about freedom and the loss thereof. We're losing it on a daily basis, and where we're headed, the ultimate end of where we're headed. And I believe I'm talking about, I read earlier on, read Revelation chapter 6, or a portion of it, and talking about the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Now, this is future. These four horsemen represent a time and people who will come in the future. I personally don't believe they have arrived yet. I believe they're still future, and I believe they'll come after the rapture. Just my personal belief. I believe that this Revelation chapter 6, everything after Revelation chapter 4 is after the church is gone. And so we are talking about that time frame. I believe the first the horseman, the white horse, represents, again, peaceful. The second one, it comes along, the red horse takes away the peace. He says that he has power to kill. They have power to kill one another. Well, and there's going to be a lot of that. In the 7-year period called the tribulation period, there will be a very large segment of the world, probably about a half to two-thirds of the population of the world will die during that time. Now, if that started right now, there's 7 billion people on the face of the earth. That started right now, that would be over 3 billion people die in a 7-year period of time. That's just unheard of. I mean, it's just I can't. My mind has a hard time wrapping around those kinds of numbers. It's the red horse. The rider on the red horse is he takes away peace from the earth. He has given to him a great sword. In the black horse that I beheld, the black horse, and that he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand, and I believe this represents a severe economic issues to where you can't buy, where it's so difficult. You have the class differentiation becomes far greater than it has ever been, in the sense that the rich are super rich and the poor are super poor. In other words, they're practically starving. We've seen some of that in past history. I don't think we've seen it like it will be, that those that have power will rise further and further to the top. There'll be fewer and fewer of them, and those who are at the bottom will have a hard time. They'll be on subsistence wages, and I believe that's what's represented by that black horse. And then the fourth one to come along, the beast, and says, and I saw the pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given to him over a fourth part of the earth. Once again, if that were to take place right now, over 7 billion people, you got over 2 billion people in this one incident, in this one particular situation, to where people are going to die. They're going to die by the sword, by war, and by criminals and murderers, things of that nature. They're to kill with the sword and with hunger and with death. So you have war, you have murder, you have, and then after that comes hunger. They kill with hunger. That's famine. We've had small glimpses of this, like in Ethiopia. You know, one of the image that stuck in my mind is the starving child and vultures around that child. I don't know if y'all saw that image, but so sometime back last year, this photographer took a picture of this starving child in Ethiopia and vultures just waiting for their meal. Well, that's a horrible, horrible image, but that's going to be commonplace during this period of time, where people are going to be dying from hunger, a fourth part of the earth, and then they'll be dying from hunger, then they'll be dying from death. I believe that's talking about diseases and things of that nature. And then the last thing on this would be the beast of the earth. We saw a situation like that in Africa when there was a famine. Lions were attacking people and eating people. Dogs will be roving and killing people of that nature. So I believe we've got a caller. Is that right?
Yes, we do. Hello? Caller?
Yes, sir.
You're on the air.
All right. Let me see. I just had a brain freeze. Hold on.
That happens quite often to Paul.
Yeah.
That's what
John's been froze up for a long time.
That's what my little grandson labeled me here a few months ago. Something happened like that, and he said, "Poppy, you're having a brain freeze." Okay. All right. You know, God created Adam, and He gave the whole world over to Adam, and He said that you're in charge of everything, and you are only to worship me. So the devil, he perverts that by trying to get man to worship everything other than him, and to try to diminish man's authority in the world and so forth, and in God and so forth. In other words, next thing you know, we're rubbing a Buddha's tummy, or we're worshiping a snake over in India or wherever. Well, symbolism. Symbolism is a big thing. Check this out. We know that we will there'll be a mark. I said we, but perhaps a we. There'll be a mark put in our forehead or our hand, and by that we can buy and sell. Now, we could pretty well envision that the scanners that are universal today for scanning everything.
Yeah, we were talking about that last week, about that RFID chip.
Well, anyway, check this out. If you go to buy things now, it's scanned quite often. Now, if you've got a chip in your forehead that you use to buy everything, you are going to have to bow down to that scanner.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And just imagine that. No, you're not bowing to God. You're bowing to a man-made object, which is a representative of the Antichrist and so forth.
Yeah.
But the symbolism of bowing to that thing.
Well, you know, it's going to be in the forehead or the hand. And we talked about last week how that this RFID chip there are some people now voluntarily taking those RFID chips in their hand. I watched a YouTube video about a fellow having that injected into his hand. You couldn't even tell it was there, but yet it had all of his personal data on there, his bank accounts and all of his health records and all that sort of thing.
What if you change banks?
Yeah, I guess you got to put. They just reprogram. They just reprogram it. Yeah, the technology is all in place for total world control. It's just a matter, I think, of a few more things falling into place before it to really come to full fruition.
Well, I have, if you guys can endure a little bit longer with me, I have covered this subject.
Got about a minute. We're about to go off. We're about to go off the air.
One thing now, I'm very much in favor of Brother Dewey, who's talking now, and so forth. But you guys really do like to hear yourself talk on this radio program.
You're right, but we do have certain time restraints.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it wouldn't surprise me if y'all don't have it recorded and go home and listen to it. You know.
Come on now, give us a break.
Okay, anyway, here's the short of it. Just I'll try to cut to the chase, as they say. Obama's the forerunner of the Antichrist. He's got 3 missions here on to accomplish that. I'm just going to go to the second mission for the sake of time. The second mission is to bring America down to its lowest common denominator, economically, militarily, morally, and every other way that you would measure a people group or a nation, to bring us that when the Antichrist is ready to annihilate Israel at the end of the tribulation, they can't call on the United States to save. They will only be able to call on the Lord Jesus, and at that time, they would accept a pig as their Messiah when he gets them out of that mess. And so that's it. So we're going downhill, and I know that's not a popular theme. You know, we want to be America the Great, and we want everything to be hunky-dory, and the Lord does call for us to continue to keep the faith and try to keep things going.
Well, one thing about it, the country's going downhill, but we as believers are going up one of these days, and I don't believe it's going to be too far.
We appreciate your phone call. We're just running out of time. I want to close it up real quick. Thanks for the call again.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you so much.
If nobody calls in, we kind of have to talk. That's kind of what we have to do. So, you know, I don't know about him saying we like to hear ourselves talk.
Well, I think he has a little bit of credibility there, Paul, because I've known you for a long time.
And by the way, no one on here has said that Obama's the forerunner of the I mean,
no, we did hint at that before.
He may well be, but you know, I don't see any scripture that would. Anyway, I don't know.
I think that things that are, here's my position. I think that things that are taking place are setting the stage for the Antichrist takeover. And it's not just Obama doing it. It's been going on for a while, as I've stated earlier, with several presidents prior. So the world's being set up. Listen, here's the bottom line, folks. The devil is the god of this world.
That's right.
I'm going to repeat that. The devil is the god of this world. The Lord God of heaven made the heaven and the earth, and he is still the supreme God. He is still the sovereign God, but he has allowed the devil to have dominion over this earth at this present time, and that means he's over the governments of the world. And our protection in the past has been that our government was established on biblical principles. That is, those biblical principles are being taken away daily, being eroded daily, and therefore the stage is being set for a world dictator to take over in the very near future.
Know that you're saved. Know that you're going to heaven. Christ died for your sins. The door of heaven is open to you, and that is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Didn't you want to end with the verse?
Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life, and we'll see you next week.
That's too bad. I really wanted to get the Governor Chris Christie's fat jokes in there. Yeah. They've been telling a lot of fat jokes about Christie.
And that's the reason why we're wrapping up. Thanks for listening to the Issues of Life broadcast right here on WTGF 90.5. We'll see you again next week.
And beliefs in the previous program are not necessary.
90.5 Milton, Pensacola.
When you